Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. What is going on? There are 10,000 of you, potentially. What? Like, that's... I can't... Okay, let me start over, because I need to, I don't know. I need to make this all make sense in my head. I started this channel a couple years ago, and I expected maybe I would get 100. You know, that was like my kind of like lofty goals. Like, I'd have 100, and only like 15 of them would be people I know, you know, that were just subscribing to me to be nice. So the idea that there's 10,000 people would do even as much as click a subscribe button on my account is crazy. Is absolutely, like, I'm very grateful is what I'm trying to get at. I didn't expect it, and I'm just very, 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 very grateful. So thank you from the bottom of my old cynical heart. Thank you. So yes, I opened up the floor to questions. I got a ton of responses. There were a lot of questions asked. I have a lot to say. I'm gonna try to go quickly because none of you want to sit through 2 hours of this, me just sitting here and yabbing. But we're gonna do what we can to get through this as quickly as possible, and make it as satisfying as possible for you. So if you're watching this, if you're interested in me and my interests and tastes and stuff, I really appreciate you. You're a real one. Drop a comment below if you have any thoughts about any of the things I talk about. Happy to have a conversation with you down there as well. I guess let's just get into it, because I'm just gonna sit here fumbling for words. Like I said, I'm just like overwhelmed. So this first one, I've got these kind of sorted by where they came from. So the first few are from Twitter, X, as it's known. And then I only got one from Blue Sky, but that's because I hadn't really fully moved over to Blue Sky when I asked for questions. So I imagine if I had asked it more recently, I would have probably gotten more responses from there, because it's a nice place to hang out. If you haven't been on Blue Sky and you're a nice person, I think Blue Sky is a great place to hang out. Has very old, like mid 2010s Twitter vibes, where it's just like chill. Anyway, this is not an advertisement for Blue Sky. But yeah, so I've got comments, questions from Twitter, one from Blue Sky, and then a bunch from the YouTube posts that I put up. So we're going to go through these in order of, well, in the order that I put them in. I don't know, but whatever. This first one is from G3 Nintendo, which I'm realizing now is Gentendo. Out of all the systems ever made, which systems do you think which system do you think has the greatest JRPG titles? If I could only pick one. That's tough. I mean, the old nostalgia guy in me wants to say, like, the Super Nintendo, because of Final Fantasy 3, 6, and Chrono Trigger, you know, like, how do you crown any system higher than that with games like that on them? I don't think that it is. Like, there's honestly only, relative to future systems, only a handful of, like, really great JRPGs on the Super Nintendo. Now, they're really great. They're fantastic, but in terms of quantity with quality, you know, it's either going to be the PS2 or the Switch, actually. And I don't know if that's recency bias that I would mention the Switch, but there are a lot. There's just so many. And even, you know, games from older systems and other systems end up on the Switch. So if you're looking for, like, the place that has, like, the highest concentration of really good JRPGs, the Switch is probably where you want to be. The PS2, to its own credit, has, you know, a ton of really great JRPGs. It was also a weird evolutionary dead end, I think. I feel like a lot of series either started in the PS2 era and then ended in the PS2 era and we haven't seen an entry since, or they started prior to the PS2 and then ended in the PS2. So it's like it was that transition to HD, I think, killed a lot of potentially great series. I'm going to go with the Switch. The answer to that question for me is the Switch. Just sheer quantity and quality, and because it's pulling games from so many different places, I think it's the Switch. Okay, next one I've got is from Nishquick. Nishquick is a great YouTuber, does a lot of, in particular, Xeno content. So if you're not subscribed to Nishquick, head on over and subscribe to Nishquick. If you like Xeno content in particular. The question here is, you know, unsurprisingly related to Xeno. It says, if you were to wish for the ideal remake of Xenogears, how would it look, play, and sound? Also, where's my dedicated Xenogears video? Fair enough. To the second question, I'll answer that first. It's such an important game to me. For those of you who don't know, I've been kind of slowly off and on working on scripting a Xenogears like retrospective, and I'm worried about it. Like, it's such an important game to me. I'm just worried that I'm not going to do it justice, so I'm hesitant and I'm like waffling and procrastinating on it. I think I'll finish it one day and put it out, and hopefully it's good. But that, to answer the question, I don't know where it is. It's not here yet. Sorry. But how would I like a remake of Xenogears to be? I would like a Xenogears remake done fully remade. I'm not even gonna mess with the HD 2D stuff. Like, I would love for a full remake in the style of, say, Xenosaga or Xenoblade. I don't want the combat to be like Xenoblade. And this may be blasphemous, but I'm not crazy about the combat. I don't like the faux MMO. Like, I love the Xenoblade games, don't get me wrong, but I don't love the faux MMO kind of gameplay style. It's not appealing to me. I find it a little bit boring. But the Xenosaga style, if we want to go turn-based, would be fine. Or, you need to incorporate the combination moves, right? So you're hitting the different square, triangle, X, high, low, or heavy, low, heavy, light, medium attacks, whatever. So you need to incorporate that. So I think a turn-based thing in the style of Xenosaga would be great. That's what I'd like to see. Just do it all up. Big budget style. Let's go. Let's get them 45-minute cutscenes in there. I don't care. I am here for it. Nathan asks on Twitter, how many games do you typically juggle at once? Do I try to balance them in any way, as in like type or length, etc.? I don't really juggle games. I tried for a while. I've heard from some other people, like I'm thinking of Paige, aka FemTrooper, here on this platform, another great YouTuber. If you somehow aren't subscribed, you should go subscribe. But FemTrooper had mentioned that she typically has one like console game going and one handheld game going at a time. I tried to kind of mirror that. It just wasn't working for me. For some reason, I can't like have two games going at once. So I really just kind of limit myself to one. And that's just because I got the dumb brain and that's all I can handle. So yeah, one at a time. Oh, by the way, some of you, if you've asked questions, I'm leaving stuff like a lot of people were like, congratulations on 10K and like, love your, like all the nice things that people said. I can't say all that stuff in front of the camera because I'll first embarrass myself, and then second, I'll just start to get a huge head. I'll just start to think way too highly of myself if I'm reading the praise that you all included in your questions, and I'm really appreciative of it, but I'm not reading it because, I don't want to get a big head. Nobody wants that. This head's big enough already. Look at this giant gourd sitting on top of my neck. It's ridiculous. Okay, next up. Twin Ben on Twitter says, what's one game you go back to periodically that you've played countless times? There's a few. You might even be able to guess them. You got your Chrono Trigger, you've got your Xenogears, you've got your Trails series. In terms of just total playing time, I mean, Trails is kind of the one that I've spent the most time playing because I kind of have gotten into the habit of replaying the entire series whenever a new game is about to come out. I'm not going to do that this time. Daybreak is coming out soon enough, or Daybreak 2 is coming out soon enough that I'm not going to mess with playing through 12 or whatever, 11 or 12 games leading up to Daybreak 2. Like, I just played Daybreak 1. I've just finished a playthrough of the whole series again. I'm just going to play Daybreak 2. It's fine. But yeah, I was playing through them over and over and over, making more, getting farther each time. So yeah, I've spent the most time replaying Trails, and I've replayed Chrono Trigger since childhood so many times. Xenogears, I've only replayed a handful of times. It's a big game, especially for the time. And so it's a little heavier. It's like I'm not always wanting to fully replay Xenogears. I wish that I could like pick and choose parts. Like there's parts of Xenogears I would love to play without having to get to that part. You know what I mean? But yeah, Chrono Trigger, Trails for the most part. Those are the ones that I keep coming back to. Yeah. So the question was, what's one game I go back to periodically? And I just basically listed like 13. So I'm sorry, I'm bad at answering questions. What's a non-RPG series that I wish more people were into or aware of? I'm going to say there's a couple that come to mind, but I think I'll start with the Zero Escape series. So, Uchikoshi-san, if you're listening, and I know you are, you're out there. You're watching this right now, aren't you? You make the best games. I love your visual novel adventure game style. These games are great. Zero Escape series, 999, which is 9 persons, 9 hours, 9 doors, or some other order, but those 3 things. And then Virtue's Last Reward, and then Zero Time Dilemma. That's the trilogy of the Zero Escape series. Just like mind-bendingly amazing stories. And like I said, they're sort of like visual novel mixed with adventure game, some puzzle solving kind of stuff. And it does such interesting kind of meta narrative things with the idea of the visual novel and like the different paths you take through a visual novel when you're getting different endings and stuff. It really kind of incorporates that into like the sort of overall meta narrative of the series. It's just very cool. Another series that he does as well is AI the Somnium Files. Love AI the Somnium Files for very similar reasons. So yes, I think more people need to play Uchikoshi games, please. Thank you. Oh, and that last question was from Red Naz. Sorry, I didn't read the name. Red Naz asked the non-JRPG series. I wish people were more aware of. Inferno Fox Gaming, another great YouTube channel that you should go subscribe to if you are not. Inferno Fox Gaming says, what direction would you like to see Final Fantasy XVII go toward? High fantasy, steampunk, or another type of setting? Should it be action or turn-based, high fidelity graphics, or pixel art? I'm going to say I would love to see like a return to the steampunk of Final Fantasy VI, and I want highest of high fidelity. You look at a game like it's that Clair Obscur Expedition 33, that kind of indie title that's blowing people's minds. Something in that vein, I think, would be really cool for a new Final Fantasy. I'd love to see a story like the one in Final Fantasy VI done in a modern graphical style. I think that would be really cool. Yeah, I feel like we can stop pretending that Final Fantasy should be set in medieval times, because like even when they do that, they're putting freaking aliens and weird technology in it anyway. Like, just, embrace the freak, Square Enix. Just go all in. Do a weirdo steampunk thing, and I'll cosplay as the main character. That's my promise to you. Give me a cool steampunk modern JRPG Final Fantasy, and I'll cosplay as the main character. I'll do it. EJ Fortescue? Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Fortesque. What is the best game you've played in the last 5 years that is not a role-playing game? There's so many. I was going to say Elden Ring. I guess technically Elden Ring is a role-playing game. It's kind of a more Western-style role-playing game. So it's not a JRPG, and I'm not sure if maybe that's what they meant by role-playing game. But if Elden Ring doesn't count, I would maybe say Silent Hill 2 remake from Bloober Team. That thoroughly blew my mind. What an experience that game was. I'm a horror fan, and Silent Hill 2 it was always my favorite in the series. I think it's a lot of people's favorites, right? It's a well-beloved game, but it elevated the experience so much more. The performances in particular from the actors, like the original game is known for having like weird, almost like David Lynchian style performances from the actors. And some people have said like, oh, that's brilliant because it makes it feel so unsettling, like David Lynch tends to. And I've always thought, like, I don't think that was intentional. I just think they weren't great, like they weren't putting out the best performance. And hearing it done with a cast that's like really bringing the A game, and it makes a big difference to the story and the world, and the glow ups with the boss fights. The boss fights are always the biggest drag in Silent Hill 2 to me. They made them so cool. Like, they just did so much to make them better, and I don't know. I'm going to be thinking about Silent Hill 2 remake for a long time. It's fantastic. If you like horror and you haven't picked it up, do it. Okay. Cold Knights Gaming, great friend, YouTuber, streamer. He streams a lot on YouTube. Cold Knights Gaming, check him out immediately. He has asked, well, he said here, okay, we've streamed and played a lot of beat 'em ups together, so what classic beat 'em up would you like to see get a remaster or remake in the future? Yeah, that's true. We do co-stream from time to time. We typically play beat 'em ups. We've also played some like random old school co-op games as well. I think I would like to see a full-on gorgeous like Shredder's Revenge style remake of Turtles, the arcade game, the original arcade game. Just because I don't think Turtles in Time needs it as much, but I'd like to see, or even honestly, just like bring the arcade game, make it accessible to me to play on PS5 or something. Like, I love that game. I had the NES version, TMNT2. Just that was like such a big childhood thing for me. I got that around the same time I got Dragon Warrior. Actually, I remember. Yeah, it was pretty close to the same time that I was playing Dragon Warriors when I got TMNT2 for the NES, so I would love to see that just done up in a gorgeous sort of new animated style. That would be amazing to me. Okay, we've got Reese. Is this the YouTuber Reese? Rice? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm saying the name wrong. Favorite joke in a JRPG. I'm thinking like, I'm trying to think like a joke that I can think of. The thing that made me laugh the most in recent memory is in the Dragon Quest III remake. So again, I know this is recency bias, but like it's the first thing that comes to mind. And I've got like a ton of these questions, so I don't want to spend like an hour thinking of my favorite joke. But this is a really good joke. You're outside the Pirates Lair in Dragon Quest III remake. And you talk to a guy, he's like, you don't want to go in there, man. Like, these are cutthroat, nasty, wicked pirates. They're going to kill you. Stay away. And then you go in, and they're just like they're just like overwhelming. They're just so nice and accommodating. And like I had stolen their treasure, and they're like, oh, I see you got that thing. Like, that's fine. Yeah, you can feel free. It's no big deal. Like, take it. Go ahead. Go nuts. And I just like that tickled me so much. I don't know. It's really simple, but like, I wasn't expecting it. Like, Dragon Quest is a really quirky series, but like that really, I don't know, that tickled me in a really good way. So I'm gonna say that for now. Lou asks, as a person who primarily purchases games digitally these days, I'm always curious to hear how players who strictly buy physical feel about the inevitable digital-only future of games. Do you think there'll be a resurgence of physical brick and mortar? I don't know about brick and mortar. But my thought, prediction, whatever you want to call it, for the future of physical games is that it's going to become more of a boutique sort of thing. It's going to be an experience that you intentionally seek out and you are going to pay more money for. And that's how it's going to be. Like, there's been a lot of negative attention on like limited run games for producing games, creating FOMO, not doing a great job all the time with the things they put, and I'm not saying that's not legitimate criticism of limited run games, but I think that model is what physical is going to become. So we kind of, in my opinion, like we just got to get used to it. We have to get used to the idea that a company is going to release a game and they're going to go to one of these small print run publishers and say, do an open pre-order for 30 days, make that number of games, print them, and then we're done. Everybody else can buy the game digitally. So if you want it physically, you're either going to need to know that you're going to want that game physically and order it during the window, or you're going to have to be willing to pay up on the aftermarket when it inevitably sells out and you decide you want to play it. I don't love that. I would love it if publishers and whatnot would continue to treat the physical market as a viable space to sell in, but I just don't think they're going to. Like, we know, right? We know that digital is where everything is going. It's already happened to music and to movies and even television. Why would we think that games would be any different? So I think for now, establishing for yourself how you are going to respond to this sort of boutique, small print run sort of future is going to be important. or you're just going to have a lot of anguish. You know what I mean? If you want to be a physical collector, I think that's just what we're going to have to deal with. And I'm personally, like, I'm more comfortable with the idea, and we were talking about this not too long ago on our podcast, the JRPG Pursuit. If you're not subscribed and listening to that, please check it out. The link is in the description. But on the JRPG Pursuit, we were talking about this, and I was saying that kind of in more recent years, I have gotten comfortable with the idea of just not pre-ordering every game that sort of catches my eye. And if I ever decide I do want that game, like, I will pay more for it because it's going to be on the aftermarket and it's limited. Most likely I'm going to be paying more for it. But, like, if I really want the game, then that's okay. I don't mind. Like, bad example, but I paid $190 for Blue Reflection. This was before Video Games Plus did the reprint, so it was extremely rare, very hard to come by. I was at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I looked all around to find the best deal in the vendor floor. One vendor had it. They had it for $200. I asked, could you please sell it to me for $190 so I at least feel like I'm, getting away with something? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So I paid $190 American dollars for that game. And that's because I wanted it and I wanted to play it. And I did, and it's a favorite. It's become a favorite. So that's the experience that I think physical collectors are going to have. Now, if you just want to play video games and you want to go digital, yes, go nuts. If you're playing games, you're winning. That's what matters more than anything. I'm a collector, and I imagine, at least right now, I can't imagine not wanting to have physical games that I'm collecting. I don't see that changing for me. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I don't think it will. So I'm going to continue to prepare myself for that digital future where physical games are a boutique, like, more expensive thing that we indulge in and not something we expect just as a matter of course. So, long answer, but that's how I'm thinking about it right now. Many says, if you could erase one JRPG trope from existence, which would it be? For a challenge, I'm not allowed to choose silent protagonist. They know me. That would, of course, be the one I would choose. If I can't choose silent protagonist, I think I would choose the amnesia trope. Like, it's been done, and it's a little funny to me when it still shows up in games. It's like, really? Like, I don't know. Particularly when a silent protagonist has amnesia, it's like that double doesn't matter. It's just like, I don't know. I would probably say the amnesia trope because it's been done to death, and I'm not saying it can't be done well. Like, it certainly can, but I would be fine if no game ever did it again. I wouldn't miss it, Okay, next up, Jason Newman, who is Dr. Gaming Plays on YouTube. Check him out there. He asks, now that we're coming up on the last few games of the Trails series, what are some things that you want answers for when it ends? And then non-spoiler type question, what game mechanic would you like to see improved? I want to know, and I hesitate, so, okay. I'm going to ask you as viewers of this video, if you're 25 minutes in, like, you're probably not a troll, right? I hope not. I would assume not. If you're a troll, you probably left a mean comment in the first 2 minutes and went on with your day and never thought of me again. But if you're 25 minutes in, I'm assuming you're not a troll. So I would just ask that if I talk about Trails and I have questions or theories about Trails, I know that some people are playing the Japanese games like Daybreak 2 and Kai. I'm not doing that, and I'm purposefully avoiding any information from the Japanese releases. I want to be surprised when I experience it in English, like I have with every other game. So please, if I post it, if I say a theory and you know that it's wrong or you know that it's right because you have played or have seen later games, please don't say anything in the comments. Please, 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 I'm begging you. I just really don't want to spoil anything for myself or for anybody else for that matter. Okay, so having said all that, what do I think? I want to know, obviously, what Ouroboros wants and what they're trying to do. I'm really curious what McBurn saw when he, like, transcended at the end of Cold Steel 4, because that's, like, the most, like, goosebumpy moment I think I've had in the series. You get done fighting him, and he transcends into this ultimate, I don't know, his ultimate demon form or whatever, and he sees, like, he regains some of his memories of, like, where he came from, and he, like, stops. And he's like, he kind of looks at you and he's like, shoot, guys, I'm sorry. What did he see? Like, what did he remember? I'm just, like, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. Like, I love that stuff. Like, I want to know that. That's the thing that's tickling me the most right And then as far as on the gameplay front, I would love to see them continue to refine the action gameplay. I think they do. I haven't played Daybreak 2 yet, but I'm pretty sure that they continue to refine that action gameplay on top of the turn-based. And I think it's already great to have the action option, but continuing to refine it and give you more options, I think would be great too. So, okay, Blake W says, what is your favorite class or archetype to play in JRPGs or RPGs? I think Thief, and that's more aspirational because I'm not good at it, especially in like Western RPGs where you can like create your character, and I want to be like the sneaky guy who can talk my way out of stuff, but I'm not great at that. So I always end up having to fight, and then I'm not well equipped to fight because I've taken that other path. So I probably should do something like just a basic warrior, probably more my speed, but Thief I think is what I'll say is what I typically do. Sugar Rush Games asks, what is your favorite non-gaming hobby? I'm going to say probably music. So I've been playing music my whole life, primarily piano, but guitar and some other things as well. And I've been in a band called These Guys for the last almost 20 years, going on 20 years. And we've never made it. Like, we're just a local band, Chicago band. We play around Chicago. Haven't played as much lately because people are having babies, and it's, people, not me, but other people in the band having babies, life changing and stuff. But we still practice pretty regularly, and we still intend to continue to put out albums and play shows. We actually just put out an album last year. So maybe I'll link that in the description if you're curious on Spotify or whatever. But yeah, music I think is the biggest thing outside of gaming and YouTube and all that stuff for me. joypadlad.com says, what channels inspired me to make a channel? So I was watching like video game YouTube for quite a while before I decided to try it. Things like the Game Chasers and Retro Rick and Phoenix Resale and some of these other like collector type channels. And that was kind of got me interested in the idea. And then Orbology, Emily, who's a good friend, I saw her channel. We weren't friends, like I didn't know her until after YouTube. But I saw her channel, and she had just started it not that long before I found it, a few months before I found it. And the reason I'm even mentioning that is, having watched these bigger channels that have been around for a long time, I was like, I shouldn't even bother starting a channel, because like there's no chance of finding an audience if you're starting a new channel. Like, it's not, like, why would you think that that's going to be possible? But then I saw Emily's channel, and she had just started out a few months before, but she was like gaining followers, she was gaining ground, and she was consistent, and I was like, okay, like, maybe it is possible to start a channel and grow it. So that was kind of maybe the last kick in the butt I needed to start doing it myself. So that's that's kind of the backstory. And now we do a podcast together, so we're good friends. So that's great. Those results won't necessarily be guaranteed if you were to start a YouTube channel. I don't know. Everybody's circumstances are different, but I've had a good time doing it so far, and I'm thankful to all the people who have been doing it for a while that gave me the motivation to get into it. People like David Vincent, who I've watched for a long time. People like Backlog Battle and Super Derek, Kaseki Nut. So many of these guys. I'm gonna there's a ton of JRPG YouTubers, and I know some of these guys. I know a lot of these guys by name, and I'm like blanking. But if you're a JRPG YouTuber, I'm sure I watch you and I appreciate you. So yeah, so many of these guys and gals that are out there putting out stuff. Very grateful for the entertainment and also for the inspiration. So yes, thank you. Okay, Christados asks, how do you determine what game to play next from the backlog? Do I have a backlog? If so, how big is it? Yes, I do. I do. Most of this around me is a backlog, unfortunately. How do I choose what to play next from the backlog? Randomly, kind of. It's sort of a mood thing. Like if I'm in the mood for a particular type of game, I will scan my shelves and find one that seems like it might fit that mood. Also, sometimes I will play a game out of guilt. I will feel guilty for having bought it on someone's recommendation and not played it, or something along those lines. So that often influences my... You can guilt me into things is basically my point. So yeah, variety of factors go into it, but generally it's not super thoughtful. It's random or guilt-ridden. So okay, moving over to Blue Sky. Shike or Shike, I'm not sure how to say that. I apologize. Have you played any game from the Mother/Earthbound trilogy? And if so, what's my favorite? I've only really played Earthbound. I love Earthbound. Love Earthbound so much. I've tried a couple times to start Mother 3, and I don't know why I haven't stuck it out. I've never gotten past like the intro, and it looks great, and the fan translation is fantastic. And I even have the cart, like the fan translated cart, and everything, so I can pop it into my analog pocket and play it, and it's great. Looks great, plays great. But I just haven't. I don't know. Part of me is still holding out hope that they're gonna one day do an official localization, and I want to support that. And I feel like, well, if I've already played it, I won't be as eager to support it, because it's like, well, then I'm just paying money for a thing I've already finished. And maybe that's why they're not putting it out, because people are just playing the fan translation, and they're like, nobody's gonna buy it if I put it out. I don't know. But as much as I know that I would love Mother 3, I have not played it yet, and I'm going to. I am going to. Where was I looking? I was like looking over here. I was looking, the camera's here, and I was looking here for a big chunk of that. If you're just listening to this, that won't have bothered you, but if you're watching the video, I apologize. That was probably disconcerting. Hi. Okay, moving on to YouTube. Okay, so this first one is from Milla from Milla's Game Room. Love Milla's Game Room YouTube channel. She covers a lot of like kind of off the beaten path sort of games that I have always like been interested in but haven't taken a dive into. So check out Milla's Game Room. Yeah, great stuff. Anyway, Milla asks, what JRPG franchises would you like to see a return of with an all-new game, not just an HD remaster? She snuck a bunch of questions in here. I'm going to read them all, and then I'm going to go through them. Next, would you ever visit any conventions outside of the USA? Would you visit Japan for some game hunting? And speaking of visiting Japan, what unlocalized JRPGs do you want to see brought over officially? So the franchise that I would like to see make a return with new entries is, I'd love to see Lunar make a return. They're bringing out the HD remaster of the first only two games. Well, Lunar Magic School, but the two main games. They're bringing out the remaster. That's great. I think that's hopefully a first step towards reviving the series. They also brought out the Grandia remakes, and I haven't heard anything about reviving that series. I don't know. I hope that they do that too, because I love Grandia, but Lunar gets an edge for me just a little bit as a series. I would also love to see Grandia revived, though. As far as attending conventions outside of the US, I would love to. Are you kidding me? I would love to. My personal budget kind of precludes me from doing it voluntarily or like without an invite / help from the convention to come out. But if any convention out there is like, hey, we'd love to have this mid-tier JRPG YouTuber, mid-tier might be too generous, come out and talk on a panel or something at our convention in the UK or France or go crazy Japan, I will do it. I will do it. I will show up. And then as far as game hunting in Japan, yes, I'm actually going to Japan in 2025. We are planning the trip now, and I will definitely be doing game hunting and collectible hunting and going nuts in the land of the rising sun for the first time. Never been to Japan. Really looking forward to it. And then finally, unlocalized JRPG that I'd like to see come out. They did it with Live Alive. I would love them to do Treasure of the Rudras? Treasure of Rudras? I think I'm saying that right. That game always looked so interesting to me. Like, you combine words together, and that's how you would build spells. It's an interesting concept, and the story seemed interesting to me too. I think it was a later Super Famicom Square RPG. So I would really love to see that come back if it's HD 2D or however they want to do it. Like, that would be cool. Next up, GRKSP845 says, I've been following your channel for a while from Spain. My question would be, have you ever abandoned a game that you thought was really good gameplay-wise due to obsolete, bigoted, or just plain obnoxious story bits? Old JRPGs can really challenge my patience sometimes. Mine would be Persona 4 with its blatant misogyny, homophobia, and fat-shaming. Just couldn't continue after about 30 hours or so. I thought about it. I don't think that I've abandoned a game because of anything like that. I definitely have like abandoned TV shows and movies over similar sorts of things. I don't know why. Like, I don't really have a good reason as to why that is. There's definitely things that bother me in particularly older games, just because, you know, temperaments change and belief systems change and like culture shifts. Even in Japan, which is quite a bit, probably still more traditional and conservative than the US is overall, at least socially speaking. They're shifting too, so there's, you know, certainly things that I think you would expect or not be surprised to see in older games that you might be surprised to see in newer games. But no, I don't think so. I totally understand it, but I don't think that I've had that happen with a game yet. But who knows? Maybe some game will surprise me and tick me off enough that I'm like, let's see. Daniel Keegan 2740 asks, where did you write reviews for in the past? Also, if I'm remembering correctly, did you mention you wrote a book? Can you tell us about it? So there's another question here too, but I'm going to answer these first. So where did I write reviews for in the past? I've written for COG Connected, Anime News Network. I did some reviews for, and some shopping guides or something. And then a site called Static Multimedia, which I don't think is like a big, I was always really confused by what this site was. I was like their only / dedicated gaming person for maybe a year or so. So I would do like articles, I don't know how it was, at least weekly, maybe more than that. And reviews and stuff for them too. But like the ones that like the Anime News Network was the one that actually paid the most. So as far as like it being a side hustle, Anime News Network was the biggest. COG Connected is a pretty big site as well. And yeah, it was fun. The issue I had with that was, even though I was kind of the RPG guy, in most cases, like, so I did get the RPGs that I wanted to play. I also like would sometimes get stuck with some random game that I didn't care about, and I'd have to play it and I'd have to review it, and I was like, I don't want to, you know. So doing YouTube is a little better because I can pick and choose what I want to cover. So far I haven't had to review a game I didn't want to review, which is great. So that's kind of why I moved away from the print stuff. And then I did write a book. It's called Heaven's Forgotten. I don't know if I think it's out of print. The publisher that published it went out of business a few years ago. I think that means the rights reverted to me, so I could republish it if I wanted to self-publish it or find another. I don't want to. It's a lot of work for very little monetary reward, certainly. But yeah, it's a book for sure, and it's like an urban fantasy kind of deal. And yeah, it was a big, like, for a long time I just wanted to be a novelist, and that was my dream. And yeah, I still, you know, I've written a couple other books that I haven't bothered to even try getting published, just because I don't know, like, it's a lot of, like I said, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of emotional toil for what ends up typically not even working out. I think you can still get Heaven's Forgotten on Kindle, I want to say, or maybe it's part of Kindle Unlimited or something. I feel like I saw it on there not too long ago. I don't know how that works. Probably don't get any money for it, but whatever. Yeah, if you want to check it out, I'd love to hear what you think. Like, you know, I was a younger man when I wrote it, but I think it's okay. It turned out fine. And then the next part was, I always enjoyed hanging with you on your music videos. What are some more of your favorite game songs and OSTs? favorite battle themes, retro scores, non-JRPG songs, etc. I'm gonna be too generic and predictable, but like anything by Yasunori Mitsuda or Go Shina, I'm there. Yasunori Nishiki is also kind of like creeping up as a must listen to composer. He did Octopath Traveler 1 and 2. Probably some other things too, but I'm only familiar with those. And yeah, I mean, Go Shina, the song from Harvestella, it's like Castle of Dreams or Castle of Illusions, is like just one of my favorite. Oh, I just love that song so much. Castle of Illusions, if you just download it or something, I mean, it's great. It's so good. It's so good. Love that song so much. Anything from the Harvestella soundtrack, honestly, is just that whole soundtrack is just nothing but really great songs. So highly recommend it. Check it out. Okay. Bozo D Luffy 1818 says, "What is your favorite chapter or sequence in any JRPG? Also, which JRPG would you most want a modern remake of, if you could choose any? And then my favorite character in Trails." So going in order, favorite chapter or sequence. I love the introduction of Chrono Trigger. It's, up through where they're going back in time the first time. Like, there's something about that that's just it's like an evocative, like, it just feels warm and fuzzy to me. I'm immediately like transported in my mind back to being a kid and playing the Chrono Trigger for the first time. Like, it's such a beautiful introduction, especially for a Super Nintendo game. Like, they were doing some cool stuff back then. It just felt so cool. And remembering beginning Chrono Trigger, remembering that, like that experience of starting it from scratch, just like beautiful. Love it. The JRPG I would most want a modern remake of is Xenogears. Talked about what I would like that to look like earlier, but yeah, I would most love Xenogears to get a modern remake, followed closely by Xenosaga, because I feel like with the direction Blade is going, we need to get more people caught up to speed on Saga as well, potentially, for whatever they're planning to do in the future. And then my favorite character in Trails, it's right now, I would have always said Estelle. Estelle is still a fantastic. Love Estelle. But Van is also really good. I really like Van in Daybreak. And also Agnes, Dark Horse maybe, but, everybody's all about Elaine. I'm like, Elaine, she's kind of lame. Elaine. You get it? Elaine. No, she's fine. Elaine's fine. But everybody, like, the love that gets poured onto Elaine, I'm like, Agnes is like the best. I love Agnes. She's such a cool character. Like, I don't know. I don't know if my feelings will change as the series progresses, but right now, Agnes is like up there potentially as a favorite. But Van is also very, very, very good. So, okay. Paul's 713 says, "What are your favorite lesser-known horror games? Been intrigued since you mentioned the secondary collection previously." Favorite lesser-known? That's that's tricky because do I play lesser-known? I mean, I'm a big fan of all the heavy hitters for sure. Would you consider Fatal Frame to be lesser-known? It's not as modern. It started to get a little attention again. From Toei, is it Tecmo? Koei Tecmo? Maybe something like Inside or Limbo. They're the like side-scrolling kind of platformers that are super stylish, or like Little Nightmares. Those are, I don't know, like those are, to me, those feel like well-known, but maybe they're not because they're a little more on the indie side. They're definitely more well-known for indie games, but outside of the major franchises, I think those are some good examples of games that just like really use the atmosphere and the mood of everything to really kind of make you feel on edge the whole time, which is very, very good. Yes, horror is a big thing for me, so we'll probably talk more about that. I think some other people have questions about the horror game side of things as well. So, Mako56K says, "Do you ever consider branching out into a wider variety of content? For example, some of your horror collection?" Yes, I have thought about it a good deal, actually. I would really like to do a horror channel. I don't, some people have said like, "Oh, you could just incorporate it into this. It's fine. People won't care." It's like, maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. but I also want to respect the time of the people that are really just here for the JRPGs. Like, that's how I started. That's what I framed the whole channel as. And I don't want to just change it, or, I mean, I would still cover JRPGs, obviously, but like, I don't want to put out a bunch of stuff that if the majority of people that watch the channel regularly aren't interested in it, like, I don't want this to just be about me. Like, I want you all to have, a voice in this as well, for sure. If people overwhelmingly were to be like, you can cover horror games, it's fine, we like that too, or we don't mind as long as you're still talking about JRPGs, I would maybe consider expanding, or doing a second channel just feels like, until and unless I was at the point where I was doing YouTube as a full-time job, where I had the time, because this like takes there's a lot that goes into just like even once a week getting a video up. So, if I didn't have a full-time job on top of this, it would be a no-brainer. I would just start a horror channel, and just that would be my other thing. But, time being a flat circle, I'm just kind of stuck. So hopefully we'll see. Let me know your thoughts if you have strong feelings about the horror games one way or the other. Like I said, I'm perfectly content not to change the way this channel runs. I'm happy with the way things are going, if you're happy. So let me know what you think. Okay, let's see. This is from Sweetwater Dream. And the question is, which character in any game would you cosplay as? We talked about this recently on our podcast again, the JRPG Pursuit, because we did a Halloween episode where we were in costume. And I dressed up as Yu Narukami from Persona 4. And it wasn't great, but, it's what I had. And I reasonably well pulled it off. I don't know. That was okay. But I would probably, I was thinking like, how would I don't want to shave because I can't see my face without this thing anymore. The beard is too important to making me not feel like I look like a thumb. I don't. So I like the beard, and if I were to have to shave the beard, it's like, it grows back, but like it takes so long, and it looks so terrible for so long until it doesn't anymore, and I don't want to shave it. So, and Emily had said like, oh, just go as, just keep the beard, just go as the rugged version of whatever character. So I would say maybe I'll go as Adol, but be like the rugged Adol. My beard is already kind of red too, so if I just had like a red wig, it wouldn't be that far off, really. Xander Stegen says, a game series you wish more people were into or aware of that's not a JRPG. This is kind of, I guess, sort of a repeat. So I'm just going to reiterate that I would say Zero Escape and AI the Somnium Files. Give me that Uchikoshi stuff, because you all need to play these Uchikoshi games if you like stories. If you are interested in stories and you don't need to have like combat as part of the gameplay experience, Uchikoshi games are phenomenal. You really should check them out. Felix the Cat X887 says, as a fan of Xenogears, do you think any of the other Xeno installments, Saga or Blade, have reached the same heights of storytelling, and if so, which ones? In some ways, yes. I think that Takahashi as a storyteller, and the team, I don't want to just give him all the credit, but Takahashi and his team, as storytellers, they have gotten way better at storytelling. So Xenoblade is a very compelling story experience across the whole run of that series. And, the thing about Xenogears for me is it was a transcending sort of experience for me. And I don't know, some of that was due to how old I was and my life experience at the time, but no subsequent Xeno game has made me quite feel like Xenogears did. So I think that they're better storytellers, and that's why it would be great if they would remake or remaster, whatever, Xenogears, let them have another crack at it as much more seasoned storytellers. I think you'd have the perfect JRPG experience if you put Takahashi and the team on a Xenogears remake. Square Enix and Monolith Soft, Nintendo, can be a Switch 2 exclusive, you know what I mean? Great. Like, let them work together, figure it out. Monolith can develop it, Square can reap the benefits, really, because, the team there is the one that I want to do it, because they're the ones that I trust with the Xeno franchise. Not that I don't trust Square, like, but I don't know how many people from Square were involved with Xenogears that are still there. How many of them have left to join Monolith Soft, because that was a pretty big exodus from what I understand back in the 90s, or early 2000s, whenever it was, when they moved over and started making Xenosaga. So anyway, that's what I would like to see. Okay, let's see. Next, Tim Sire 6769. What cookable dish out of the Trail series makes your mouth water the most? For me, it's Crow's Famous Fish Burger. For me, what is it? The rainbow jelly beans. I'm just a Jelly Belly guy, and I love that some sort of jelly bean exists in the world of Trails. I'm just very happy for them. Love me some Jelly Bellies. So I'm gonna go with the rainbow jelly beans. That's my favorite. I know that's probably not satisfying. There's a lot of savory, delicious looking things that you can put together in those games. But I'm gonna stick with it. Rainbow jelly beans. Fitz7462 says your top 3 favorite JRPG currencies for whatever reason. They said for whatever reason. I'm not being dismissive. So my top favorite currencies are, in order, Gil, Meseta from Phantasy Star, and Gold from a bunch of different series. Those are my favorite in order. You could argue that Gil is Gold, but I would say it's not. It's a different thing. All right. Okay, XFit Nerd, CrossFit Nerd says, what's your favorite outtake from any of your videos? And as a generally positive person, what are some things that are an automatic nope for you? My favorite outtake. Boy, I don't know. I have so many, and I like anytime that I mess up and just like instinctively insult myself, I feel like that's and I'm sure I've put outtakes like that up on this channel at various points. That feels like that's just very authentically me. So those are my favorites. When I don't even think about it, I'm not like trying to put on a show. I'm just like, you idiot, that's fun. And then, what was the other part? As a positive person, some things are an automatic nope for me. That is an interesting question. What do I nope out of right away? That's really hard for me to say, because part of my like positive outlook and that I try to convey online in general and in videos is that, especially when it comes to games, I'm operating from the perspective that I don't think any game developer is coming at this in bad faith. Like, I don't think any game developer is like, I'm going to make a bad game that's going to waste people's time, and that's what I want to do. So I'm not comfortable like just dismissively insulting a game, even if I have a bad experience with it, because I don't think that the person who made it was intending to give me a bad experience. If I ever encounter a game where it's clear that they were trying to give me a bad experience and that was their intention and they're trolling, a very expensive troll, I guess, then I would feel more comfortable being mean about it. But that's just me. Like, I don't, and whatever, if people make reviews and they're dismissive or mean to games that they don't like, that's fine. I mean, everybody's got their brand, and, developers have to have thick skin to operate. Anybody that's making a creative thing has to have thick skin to operate in a public space. But that's just not me. I'm just not interested in making content like that, So, if a game, I don't know, if a game came out that was just like straight up insulting or derogatory, or I'm using really vague terms because I don't know. Like, there are some PC games I know that are just intended to shock or offend. And I'm not the most easily offended person, honestly. Like, I'm pretty chill, especially about myself. Like, you can make fun of me, like, okay, I guess, that's whatever. If you come after like people that I care about, that's different. Like, that's really that's something that gets me riled up. But speaking as far as games go, like, if it's just intended to be offensive, I'm done. Like, I don't have any interest in that. That's not, even if it would look like a fun game, it's like, need to have that experience, I'm fine with not having that. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not a satisfying answer, but yeah, if the game is intended to be in bad faith, then I think that I'm not interested in it off the bat. Right. JD Hutchinson asks, what magic powers does my beard give me? I'm able to lift city buses directly over my head. And that's it. I can't throw them. I can't even put them down, which is why I don't do it, because then they got to bring a crane in, and it's a whole thing. But, it's pretty cool if I ever needed to really impress somebody in a very specific set of circumstances. I have that power thanks to this here. So, Jeans, all caps, says, who's best girl? Best girl is Estelle, of course. She's the best. Or Agnes. Like I said earlier, I don't know. Agnes seems like a really cool character. She's real fun. And so it's kind of a toss-up right now for me. And I know this is going to upset some people, but yeah, I don't know. Estelle's great still, but Agnes is really cool too. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Elias is the greatest says, what has been your favorite game of 2024? It doesn't have to have been released this year, but that I've enjoyed playing the most. Oh boy. I've played so many amazing games, as I think a lot of us have, in the past year, and I think all of them so far have come out this past year too. So I don't even have to think about games that I played that didn't come out this year, because like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Trails Through Daybreak and Silent Hill 2 Remake, like the best out of all of them, probably Rebirth, I guess. I don't know. I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII world guy. I love that whole lore, and I love what the remake trilogy is doing with it, expanding on it. It's hard to beat that as far as this year games that I've played. But Trails Through Daybreak is amazing. Silent Hill 2 Remake is amazing. It's an embarrassment of riches for us right now. And riches is what we need to be able to buy all the games that we want to play. So, Total Level says, since you talked about hoping the video will be embarrassing for you, what's your most shameful or embarrassing gaming moment? It's not really, I don't know if it counts as a gaming moment, but it was at a gaming convention. And somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know I really like your content. And I was like, oh, that's so nice of you. Thanks. And I shook his hand and I was like, I'm Brandon. And then I'm like, he knows you're Brandon. He just came up to you and told you that he likes your content. He obviously knows you're Brandon. You say your name at the beginning of every video. And then I just wanted to disappear into the floor. I just wanted to melt away and vanish. I was like, oh, it's so dumb. Why would I say that? Why would I say that? It's so stupid. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. I don't know if the person even registered that was a weird thing for me to say. Maybe they didn't, but it was very stupid. I felt really dumb. Anyway. Okay, Tony says, if you and your wife were bracers, what type of quartz and weapon would you each use? And then second question, where would you choose to live in Zemuria? I think I would do the dual sword knife thing that Joshua has going on. I think Jen would probably be the bow staff. I don't think she wants to really hurt anybody. So I think she'd go bow staff. I would probably want to live in Crossbell. Post all the troubles and strife. Once things settle down, I think Crossbell would be a cool place to live. Oh, and quartz. I feel like we would both use a variety. I don't think we would stick with one particular set, even if we were creating lines and making more. I think we would probably be a mix and match sort of thing. That's how I would be. I think Jen would be too. I could ask her, but she wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. So, Nintendo Gamer Gal, also great YouTuber. Go check her out. What game most what? We're gonna get through this. It's been an hour on my clock here. What game most shaped the games you love today? I'm gonna say probably that's Xenogears. Chrono Trigger obviously is a brilliant game, and it's I think still my favorite game. But Xenogears was paradigm shifting for me, and if I ever get that Xenogears video out, I'll fully explain to you why that is. But it changed my life, kind of, in some actually kind of real ways. So I'd like to talk more about it, but we'll save that for the video. Maybe this will motivate me to get that out because I'm starting to talk about it. But yeah, Xenogears. Mad Kaiser, also great YouTuber. Check out Mad Kaiser. Asks, where did the idea Just the Gems come from? Literally, where it came from was the treadmill. I was on the treadmill, and I was watching some YouTube channel. I don't remember which one it was now. I don't think it was even a gaming YouTube channel at that moment. I think it was somebody, like a finance thing, I want to say. I don't know why I was watching it. I was watching it because I'm bad with money, and that's probably why I was watching it. But anyway, I was like, if I'm going to start a channel, I need a name, and I want to have some alliteration in there. So I was like, Just the Gems. That's a name. That's a name. It has alliteration. And I just never looked back. I never gave it any more thought. I was like, okay, I've got a name. I don't have any excuse. I need to make the channel now. So I did. Mungunzu, fantastic dude. He's on Twitter. He's on YouTube. He makes reviews. He streams quite a bit as well, particularly Morrowind. Mungunzu says, what are your feelings for the current JRPG climate in the modern era? There are so many great games, and that's not a bad thing. Like, on its face, that's good. Where I have concern is there's so many good games, and the budgets for most of these games are astronomical. So they all need to perform exceptionally well for the company to break even, right? For the company to even begin to make money on it, it's got to be bonkers. So the state of the industry right now is there is no shortage of creativity or amazing games to play, but there is a shortage of time and money and people to play them. So for the long-term life of the industry, I feel like we need a lot more mid-range, like AA or indie games that break out. And, you know, they're not going to, because there's going to be even more games then, right? If we remove the restriction that every new game needs to be a AAA 80-hour experience that costs $2 billion to make, we're going to have a lot more games. And so, yeah, that's going to be harder to choose, but a game isn't going to need to sell a quintillion copies to break even, right? It's going to cost less to make, so it doesn't need as big of an audience to be successful. That, yeah, as I'm saying it, yeah, that is what I think makes the most sense to me. We need way more games than we have now, and we have too many games, right? But I'm saying we need more games, but they need to cost way, way, way less to develop, so that, yeah, we're never going to get to experience everything. Fact of life, unfortunately, it's just the way it is. Time is finite for us human monsters. But a game doesn't need to sell 5 billion copies to make its money back. So we can have more games. Companies can have the success that they need to have in order to keep going. We get more the sequels that we want to see. We get new IPs that we would like to see. That's my wish for the industry. So the way it is now is great in the sense that there's so many great games. It's not necessarily fantastic long-term for the financial viability of the industry because there's only so many people, only so much time. We can't buy every game. We're not going to play every game as it is. So, you know. Sai says, who's your favorite JRPG protagonist of all time and who's your favorite villain? Well, it's a Stellar Van right now. Honestly, I would have always said Estelle, but again, Van is really, I guess, taken over bit by bit my heart. My favorite villain, probably Kafka. Yeah, Kafka, Final Fantasy VI. You know, I tend to like morally gray villains as a general rule. Kafka is not that. He's just evil. He's just pure. Like, there's some hints of a tragic backstory there, which is interesting, but you don't really experience much of that in the game itself. There's very small little hints. But yeah, I like Kafka as far as just pure effective villain. I don't think they've done better yet. Sephiroth is, people love Sephiroth. I'm wishy-washy on Sephiroth. I don't, but Kefka, amazing. Aaron Zimmerman 7686 says, "What's your favorite non-RPG game or genre?" That is definitely horror. I would call it like my secondary collection. I don't have as many. There just aren't as many horror games as there are JRPGs, I don't think. But horror is very much, it's my favorite film genre. I just love it. I don't know why. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She just does not understand. I'm like talking about how I want to see Terrifier 3, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be so gross and depraved and like, ugh, I can't wait. And she's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know. It's just fun. I just like it. So yeah, horror for sure. Okay. Ophidian Mind 333 says, as a fan of both RPGs and horror games, what would you desire in terms of gameplay from a game that attempted to combine these two genres? Interesting question. I would say I would want the gameplay to not be focused on sneaking, like stealth, like avoiding enemies or running away from enemies. That can be an effective horror thing for sure, but I don't want to like have to be sneaking around everywhere, I guess. Maybe if you're going to have combat in the game too, maybe it's not combat in the traditional sense, but you have battles where the goal isn't necessarily to beat the thing that you're in combat with, but to survive it. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's turn-based. I don't know if it's action. But I don't know. I have a hard time explaining what it is that I'm imagining. But like, rather than choosing fight, like hide, or I don't know. Like I feel like there's a possibility of something there. So yeah, I mean, there should be more horror RPGs anyway, right? Like, it's so weird that hasn't really been done. I think the theory that I was working with is that there aren't more horror RPGs because horror is hard to sustain over a long period of time. It's like the purpose of it is you get in there, you feel tense, and then there's some relief, and then you feel tense and there's some relief. And a JRPG tends to be a 40 to 200 hour experience, and trying to sustain that rhythm of tension release over that period of time might just be too difficult to do. I don't know. But I'd like to see it. I hope people give it a try more, please. Okay, so Fletchmo7 says, how much time does it take making and editing these videos for YouTube? It really depends on the complexity of the video. Like, for example, I'm at 1 hour and 13 minutes recording this video. And by the time I'm done, it'll probably have been 4 or 5 hours of the whole process. But like a more complicated video, like a review, or some kind of like list or something, one of those kind of deals, that could be anywhere up to 10, 12 hours. It really does depend. So I try to plan my content based on like what's going on. If I have a little bit more time, then I can do a little more complicated video. If I just don't have time, then maybe it's a gems episode where I'm sitting down and just kind of talking about a topic, and it's maybe some gameplay footage thrown in, but it's primarily just me sitting here talking. And everybody wants their videos to perform well, and I know that there's certain kinds of videos that aren't going to perform as well, but I know that there's people that have said that they like those kind of videos, and so I don't want to just not produce those kind because they don't bring the big numbers. Like I want to just, and it helps too because those sorts of videos, they're a little bit easier to make, still require some work, but they're not the 12-hour undertaking. So yeah, it does vary, but I'd say 4 to 12 hours is the span. So Shadow King 1982 says, what is your favorite moment in both Trails and Ys? I think my favorite moment in Trails is the ending of Cold Steel 2, particularly the scene where Reen is talking to Toa in her office after everything is done. That was just a really powerful moment across the entire series for me. So, and then for Ys, I think the opening, like running around the island for the first time sequences when you've got Sunshine Coastline playing in the background, and it's just so bright and vivid and cool, like in Ys 8. Like that's my, I think, yeah, that opening part of Ys 8 is my favorite Ys moment so far. Honest Emelhead, I like that. Honest Emelhead says, "What's your favorite non-JRPG game?" That's tough. Boy. My gut is to say Shadow of the Colossus. So maybe it's Shadow of the Colossus. Eco's up there too. Fumito Ueda's just like, he's the GOAT as far as like artistically interesting and beautiful games goes. So yeah, maybe let's say Shadow of the Colossus. I think I would probably put that up there as a favorite, if not the most favorite, but I don't know. I think Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah. Chris versus RPG says, chicken wings or chicken legs? It's the legs for me. It's legs for me, please. There's too much effort involved in a wing to get the meat off there, and there's never as much meat as you want there to be anyway. So it's a lot more work for a lot less reward. If I could just have a bowl of chicken legs, that would be good. That'd be great. Down with the wings. Ploy's Maw says, my question is simple. Which games that are still currently only available on handhelds, like the DS, 3DS, Vita, would you like to see on modern systems? Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. Please. Please. Atlas. Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. Let's get it onto something. I don't care what. Everything. Put it on everything. It's such a great game. It's such a great game, and it's crazy that it's only on the 3DS. Only on the 3DS. Other games of that era have gotten remasters or ports to modern hardware. Radiant Historia is the best of them all, and it's stuck on there, you know? I just bought it recently, the long box of the 3DS version. So I have the DS original, and I have the 3DS Perfect Chronology remake. Please, Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology, please. Chrisman 2100 says, what is one of your favorite childhood gaming memories? The thing that comes to mind most immediately is opening Christmas presents back in like, I don't know, 1989 or something. Like, I was really young. Boy, someone knocking on my side door. That should be illegal. It scared me. No one comes to the side door. Anyway, yard work done, so that's what that is. What was I saying? Favorite childhood gaming memories. 1989. Something, 90 maybe. I don't know. Very, very young. I remember opening Christmas presents and getting both Castlevania 3 and Ghostbusters 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And it was my mom and my grandma and me, and I was just blown away. These were, Castlevania I loved, but Ghostbusters, I was all about Ghostbusters. I was a little boy in the 80s, so of course I was all about Ghostbusters. And I just remember running upstairs to the Nintendo and just play, like, it was just so much, so great, so much fun. And yeah, I've been chasing that feeling ever since, like that excitement. The fact that I remember it so vividly is like, that really had an impact on me. So I'm going to call that probably my favorite childhood gaming memory for sure. Chaser952 says, if you didn't make videos about gaming and JRPGs, what would you make videos about? I could do another take of that, but I'm not going to. You're going to just see how stupid I am and how bad I am at this. I would probably do tech videos. I like toys, like tech stuff, so I would do like electric cars and like tablets and other home, like smart home stuff. I just love all that stuff. I don't care that some people don't trust it. Like, whatever, sign me up, give me all that crap. Yeah, I love it. And then if I was like a big YouTuber that was reviewing it, I would get it all for free, and that would also be great. That would make my life so much better. But yeah, I think that's probably what I would do if I wasn't doing gaming in general. Yeah, tech. I would do tech. Alistair Shadow Zero says, make a list of all the RPGs you've beaten in alphabetical order. No, I will not. I couldn't even honestly. I would need to, first of all, sit down with like a Moby Games printed out list of every game that's ever been made. and then I would need to rack my brain and be like, did I play that game? Maybe. Or did I just read about it in Nintendo Power when I was a kid? Also a possibility. And did I beat it? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, most modern games that I play, I do finish. But especially back in the day, I didn't always finish games. Sometimes I would just rent them too, just rent them for a few nights and get as far as you can, and then hope that your save is still there the next time you rent it, and it's never there. It's never still there. So, yeah, but I have finished a lot. So I, take that for what it's worth, which is nothing. It's worth nothing. Big umami taste. It's all one word. I was like, what does this say? Big umami taste says, have you had Portillo's? And if so, are you a fan? Yes. Just had Portillo's not that long ago, actually. As a Chicago area person, Portillo's it is everything. I love Portillo's so much. They're famous for the Italian beef, obviously, but their burgers are also really like the char grill. It's so very good. And the hot dogs, Chicago style. I love Portillo's. Yeah, my wife got me into Portillo's because she grew up around here. I didn't, so she got me into it, and it is just it's one of those places. She's a picky eater, and we don't always agree on what we want to eat. But Portillo's, typically there's agreement immediately when it's Portillo's. So that's a great kind of equalizer in our marriage too. Portillo's all the way. Neo JRPG says, what were the first 3 JRPGs you ever played? So I know Dragon Warrior was the first. I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy 2/4 was the second, I think. And then maybe Lufia? I don't know. It's hard to remember the exact order, and I guess it's possible I played bits of a JRPG on the Nintendo that I'm not remembering right now. But yeah, I don't know, nothing's coming to mind. Lufia was definitely an early one for me, so I'll say Lufia. It may not have been, but it was pretty early. Enrique Eduardo Vasquez Domin 511 says, I know your wife is very supportive about your JRPG gaming hobby, but have you ever had an issue about it with her or some family or some friends, like someone pointing out that you're too old for that kind of hobby, or you should have spent your money more wisely? Generally, no, but there was one instance where we did get into it, and and I'm not one of those guys oh, the little missus is always right. She doesn't think she's always right either. She's a person and we're all fallible people. But in this case, I think she was right. It was in the early days of the channel. I don't think I was even at 1,000 subscribers yet, so it was pretty early on. And I was buying so many games and spending so much money. She didn't even know how much. Because she wasn't paying super close attention to it. She was just kind of questioning the whole thing. What are you doing? And so I kind of got defensive, and I was like, no, of course it's fine or whatever. I'm not spending too much. And then I sat down and actually added it up for just 1 month. I think it was October 2022. Sat down and just tallied it up for that 1 month. And I was like, oh my gosh. Whoa. I was spending way too much. So then I course corrected, and I feel like I'm in a much better place now. So it's not as bad, but it was kind of a wake up call. And like I said, she's very supportive, very, very supportive of me in general and the channel in particular. She watches all my videos, even though she doesn't play the games really that much. And she listens to the podcast. I know, she's as far as a spouse goes, I don't know if I've met a more supportive spouse for anybody. So yeah, so she's always been very supportive, but yeah, she pointed out something that I was kind of blind to, and she was correct. And I think things are in a better place now than they were then, for sure. Spare Ombre says, for my question, I would like to know, what was your first game that you ever played? And if it's not a JRPG, what was your first JRPG? My first game I ever played was Super Mario Brothers. I remember watching my cousin, who was a year older than me, I must have been 3, playing it at his house. and just being like, whoa, like it's on the TV, but you're controlling it, and this is amazing. And then I played and died at the first Goomba, and the rest is history. The first RPG would have been Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest, the original, on the Nintendo. I mean, depending on how loosely you define RPG, JRPG, you could say certain other games, but pure JRPG, Dragon Warrior 1, yeah, for sure. Morak says, what JRPG moment made you most giddy? Like butterflies in the stomach, fist pumping the air giddy. Okay. This doesn't have a happy ending, but the story is, I have wanted for a long time, especially since Ys 8, I was like, Adol he's not the silent protagonist he used to be. He participates in the story, like you choose dialogue options for him pretty frequently, so he's actively engaged, and it's a little easier to see him as a character because he's actively engaged. However, they never voice his lines, so it's just silent, like someone will say something, you'll respond, it's silent, and then they answer as though you responded. Not ideal, but at least he's a part of the story, right? Well, I was always like, well, why don't they just voice those lines? Like, he doesn't need to be silent. Like, he's talking, he's part of the story. It's not the like blank avatar that the silent protagonist used to be. He's participating. Like, why not just voice his lines? You already have an actor. I think it's Bryce Papenbrook voices Adol. Like, let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments, by the way. I've been saying that with like so much confidence. I think it's Bryce Papenbrook. Anyway, they already have him voicing like battle and stuff. Like, just have him read the lines. He's already there, Well, then Ys 10 comes out, and I was playing it early because I got the review code. So I didn't know what to expect because nobody was talking about it yet. It hadn't come out. And the very beginning of the game, you're on a boat, and Dogi says something, and then you choose a prompt for Adol to respond, and you choose the response, and he voices it. And I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. Finally, they're doing it. They're just like letting me choose. That's fine. Letting me choose the dialogue so that the player is still involved in, Adol's character. But like, they're voicing it. Finally, it's not going to feel so weird when they're having these conversations and everybody's talking but him. The sad reality, and you'll know this if you've played it, is that's the only time that happens. The first bit of dialogue is the only time that happens. And I don't think I've ever been as like let down I was like, oh my god, I was so excited. I think I fist pumped. I think I actually probably fist pumped in real life. And it never happened again. But, maybe it's baby steps. Maybe they're creeping their way towards having him have a voice. I don't know. We'll see. Izela1613 says, one of the reasons that I love RPGs more than other genres is for their narratives. I enjoy being inspired by the settings and characters. I can think back to moments in some of these games that I happened to play at the right time that made an impression that lasted well beyond the game itself. One of these I always come back to is Final Fantasy X and Yuna's determination to see her journey completed while she knew the outcome. Do you have anything like that sticks out for you? Yes, it's Xenogears, and I don't want to go into it right now because, like I said, part of my video that I'm kind of motivating myself even more and more as I do this 10K special to actually finish. I want to talk about it there, but there are some big moments in Xenogears, just the way the story is told and the sorts of things it was bold enough to do that did a lot for me, that I think about a lot, and that I think largely had a not insubstantial impact in the person I became. So if you're interested in that, I hope you will look forward to that video when it comes out someday soon, hopefully. I don't know, someday. Finally, Super Soda says, something I've always wanted to ask a Trails fan with a YouTube channel. What is your craziest, most insane Trails theory that you're absolutely sure is true? So again, I want to reiterate my request that if you know that I'm right or wrong about this theory, that you please don't say anything in the comments. Please don't hint. Don't even hint. I don't want to know. I want to be surprised. But my theory, and feel free to, like, the video's over. That was the last one. I'm just going to do the wrap-up stuff after this. So if you don't want to even hear my theory because you're afraid that it would be kind of a spoiler, or you don't want to, I get that. I understand that. So if you want to click away now, that's fine. Thank you for watching. You're great. You're a real one. But my theory is that Professor Hamilton is actually the Grandmaster. There's reasons that I think that, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but that to me, for a long time, ever since they started mentioning Professor Hamilton, a few games ago, 2 or 3 games prior to Day Rick, when you actually meet her, I was like, I don't know, something about her. She's connected to the Epstein, Professor Epstein, not Jeffrey. It's different Epstein. Just an unfortunate naming. But yeah, she's connected to him. I mean, all the professors are, like the scientists are, right? But I don't know. She's the most mysterious of them, just because we've only just now met her. So I just have this. I've had this theory that I'm like, that's it, right? Like she's the Grandmaster, right? Like that's it. Like I said, I feel like that should be it, and so I'm right. I should be right, but I'm probably wrong. I don't know. But that's my theory. Anyway. Wow. Okay, I've been at this for like an hour and a half. I'm gonna have to cut this down a little bit. If I missed your question, I'm very sorry. Please drop it in the comments, or if you didn't leave one originally and you just are curious, I will answer more questions down in the comments for this special. Like that was a lot of questions, and if you sat here and listened to me talk this whole time, wow, thank you. That's kind. That's actually very kind. But anyway, yes, thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing and sharing the channel if you have. Like, that helps so much. Like, getting people in that are interested in this stuff. Like, the biggest thing I wanted to do with YouTube was, like, I want to find people that like these sorts of games, because the people in my real life, like my real life friends, I love my real life friends and family, and, like, don't get me wrong, but, like, they're not into this stuff like I am. So it's like, I want to, like, have an outlet, a community where I can, like, talk to people about this stuff. My dogs are freaking out because they're doing yard work out back, and they're very upset by that. But they don't understand. I paid them to be here. They're supposed to be here. But anyway, like, thank you for helping make this whole thing work. I really appreciate it. It's crazy how it's worked out so far. I hope that we can keep it going for a long time. I don't see myself getting tired of it anytime soon. So if you all stick around, then I think that we can keep it going. So here's to that. Here's to you. And until next time,